Welcome to Learn Out Here, a podcast dedicated to closing the textbook, ditching those worksheets, and exploring strategies that can make education less about the product and more about the journey. I'm Meg, an educator of over 10 years with a love for making stuff. I want to show the value that STEM education has when it's inquiry-based and rooted in real life. In a world where things are increasingly being done for us, learning how to problem solve and create for ourselves is an essential skill. So, jump on in. It's going to be fun. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to episode 2. We're talking STEM today. How strange. How shocking. Wow. Seems like we're only 2 episodes in, but it seems as though there's a little bit of a trend here that we're picking up on. I love it. I'm here for it. This is exciting. So today's topic and title is 10 ways to spark your child's curiosity about STEM. So if I haven't already mentioned this, I'm a mom of 2 small humans. So, I'm sparking my child's curiosity about STEM, my children's curiosity about STEM. But this also, I think, pertains to teachers, those kids in our class. What do we call them? We call them our kids, right? And so this is for them as well. Okay, this isn't, you don't have to be a parent in the traditional sense to get something out of this. In fact, we're going to hear from a few people that I've reached out to on social media that have shared their wisdom, and that's really exciting as well. So stick around because this one's going to be good. I am a little gurgly. Winter has hit here in St. Albert, Alberta, and it's cold. There's a lot of snow, which I'm excited about, to be honest, because last year it was like cold and brown, which is no fun, you know? So I just kind of am of the opinion that if it's gonna be cold, there should be snow, and we have that. But with that comes all of the dryness, all of the gurgly throats, because if you are not from around here, you may or may not know that St. Albert is smack dab in the middle of a province called Alberta, which is other than the beautiful Rocky Mountains, which I live a few hours drive from. It's pretty much in the middle of a field. It's like there's a lot of flat going on here, so a little windy, a little dry. Anyway, we could talk about me and my gurgly throat all day, but that's not why we're here. So, sparking kids' curiosity in STEM. I don't know if you have found this, and for me, in my 10 plus years in the classroom, it was pretty rare, if I'm being honest. Lots of kids were excited about building, about using technology, about designing, about creative thinking. They were excited about it. But every so often, I would come across a kid that would say, I don't like doing this stuff, which is completely fair and valid. Completely fair and valid. So I do also want to say that we are not here to push things on kids. Okay, so I'm going to share with you 10 ways that I think could spark some curiosity. And with that, what I mean is show them what STEM really is, because we talked about a bit in episode 1. A lot of us think about STEM, we think about robots and coding and building bridges and things like that. But that's not what it all is. So, sparking that child's curiosity is more about showing them all of the different ways that STEM actually relates to their interests and to our real life. All right. That being said, if you try some of these things and it's still, maybe not their thing, we have to be okay with that. There are so many ways for kids to grow and become a part of this world that we live in, right? We also talked in episode 1 how they already are a part of this world. And I've had parents come in, I'm sure that we all have been here, parents come in out of like the best place in their heart, right? All of us want our kids to do great things in the world, to contribute to the world, to be ready, to be um, valued, I guess. We want them to be able to contribute and to be ready, right? We want them to have all of the tools in their toolkit. So this comes from a place of love, but I've had parents come in, maybe it's a parent teacher interview, or maybe it's after school, and say, what do I need to do? I'm going to sign them up for this class. I'm going to buy them this robot because they need STEM skills for the workforce, right? Which again comes from a place of love. Who doesn't want their kids to be able to get a job? We don't know what the future looks like. So I feel that in my heart and soul. But we can't force anybody to do anything. We want them to be happy, right? We want them to feel um, their passions. And so if we try some of these things and it's just not there, why don't we just agree now that we'll take a step back and we will support whatever passion those kids have? And maybe down the road, we can find a connection to STEM somewhere and we can explore that and show them how to discover that. But ultimately, we're here to expose kids to different opportunities, different ways of thinking, different methods of being creative, so that they might find their passions as they get older. We're not here to tell them what they need to be when they grow up. So I'm going to step off my soapbox now. I'm going to step down from this hill and let's talk about some ways to spark some STEM curiosity. Let's get excited. So the first one is to connect STEM, science, technology, engineering, or math, to a current interest that those kids have. Okay, so for example, our art kids, there are so many cool things online to do, create art with technology. I mean, the most basic one that I can think of that my junior high STEM students were into was Procreate. If you have a set of iPads in your class, I know that you have to pay for it, right? So there are lots of free options. Just give it a quick Google. You can find, actually, you don't even need to Google it. Ask the kids. They already know, let's be honest. But Procreate was one, if you want to build like a specific skill set. Procreate is fantastic for our kids who are interested in art. It has so many capabilities. Procreate Dreams has come out, and that's also fine. But as far as those kids who maybe are also interested in animation, just regular Procreate, you can create simple animations or get them on Canva, right? Canva is great. It's easy. It's free for students and teachers in K to 12. So that's another great option. But one that I always used to do for my kids who were so interested in art is I would introduce them to Leonardo da Vinci, because he was an incredible artist, but he was also an incredible engineer. So that could be an interesting leeway to merge those worlds together. The kids who are really interested in music, could you show them how music is produced? Right? And the one that I actually start with, this is silly, but I like to kind of take the pressure off, right? So if I find a kid who's interested in something like, say, music, and they say, I just really love music, instead of saying, well, if you want to be a music producer when you grow up, you're going to have to learn how to use this software and this software. That can be overwhelming, right? There's nothing wrong with that. We do want to teach them how to use this stuff. But what I start with is blob opera. So if you Google blob opera, the Google Chrome has a sort of platform of music apps, and one of them is blob opera. And I'm not going to give it away. If you're not familiar with it, please pause this episode, go Google blob opera, and you're welcome for the smile that is going to show up on your face in about 5 minutes. So enjoy that. Our kids who are interested in sports, we can prompt them with questions, right? How far do you, like, let's get a bunch of different kinds of balls. How far do you think each of these will go through the air when we hit them with the bat? Which one's going to go the farthest? Which one's going to be the most accurate, right? That exploration, that's STEM. Or maybe we could come up with a challenge. Let's invent a new sport. What kind of equipment should we make? Are we making our own equipment? Can we use a 3D printer? Are we going to use recyclable materials? What are we doing? Let's create a new sport. And then we know that there are always kids that are interested in animals. Okay? If you are an elementary school teacher, like I am, slash was, animals are life. Animals are life. Animals encompass everything we do and everything we learn about at least 4 times a week. I would have students coming up to me asking me, can I do a research project on, and then you like insert animal here, okay? And sometimes they would have animals that I had never heard of. We love animals. So could we explore habitats? Could we recreate habitats? Maybe we could find some issues with habitat loss. How can humans support that? How can we solve that problem? Can we engineer habitats for these animals? All right, one game that I used to love to play is track how fast you can run and then learn about an animal that also moves that fast. Where does it exist in the world? Okay, those kids who love to research animals, do this one with them because you're going to get them moving and running. And like every kid is going to want to run as fast as a cheetah so that they can research cheetahs. They're not going to be able to do it. So they're going to have to learn about some random, obscure, like, and not centipede, but you know what I mean? Like something like that, some strange animal, perhaps a field mouse. It's going to be fun. All right. We can brainstorm conservation efforts. We can learn about bird adaptations. Here in Alberta, we just switched our science curriculum, but our old grade 6 curriculum used to be about flight and aerodynamics. And one of our learning outcomes was about bird and insect adaptations for flight. Okay. So one of the projects we would do is we would research birds and their different sort of body structures and adaptations so that they could fly. But my favorite part of the project was when we did zombie birds, all right, or frankenbirds, we would call them sometimes. And they would have to identify a flightless bird. So, for example, a penguin. And then we would do this on the computer, so Google Slides or Canva. And I would teach them how to use background remover, and they would create a mashup of different kinds of birds. So they would take that penguin, for example, and then they would have to add the wings of basically they're trying to change this penguin into a bird that can't fly, or sorry, they're trying to change this penguin from a bird that can't fly into a bird that can fly. So they're taking a picture of this penguin and maybe they're cropping on some eagle wings, right? Because we need a big wingspan for a big bird. And then some of the kids would like adjust the size of the penguin so it was a little bit smaller and had a smaller body mass for flight. And they would adjust all of these things. They would make it more aerodynamic. And eventually you would end up with this hodgepodge bird of mismatched pieces. But scientifically, would have the adaptations for flight. And it was such a hoot because those kids who were really interested in animals, they didn't end up researching one bird. They ended up researching like 5 birds so that they could put all of the pieces on this flightless one. And we also learned a lot about flightless birds, so that's fun. It was cool. So connecting STEM to a current interest that kids have can be a really, really great way to spark that curiosity. All right. Sorry, may I take a winter cough break? Number 2, get outside. This is such an easy thing to do, but it's also not. We always have, I don't know about you, but this happens to me all the time. I get caught up in this, especially in the winter. I have so many great ideas for how to get my kids outside, and then I get caught up in the day and it doesn't happen for us. But gosh, those kids need to get outside. They need to explore. It needs to be like instructional time that's not instructional, if you know what I mean. Free exploration. Kids spend their whole day at school being told exactly what to do. Do this, then do this, then do this. But when we get outside, we can explore all of the things that our world, our little space has to offer. Okay. So even taking a walk around the neighborhood, we could discuss, we're walking and we come up to a park bench or a bench by a bus stop, right? We can say, somebody made this bench. Like sometimes we just need to bring awareness to that. So, what do you think the person who made this bench or designed the first bench had to think about when they were designing it? What kinds of problems do you think they ran into? Why did they choose this material instead of this material? So that's a good way to kind of prompt some thinking, some awareness into something we may have not considered before. And then my favorite thing to do is, what would make this, whatever it is, bus stop, bench, wherever you are, what would make this more fun for kids? Because it's just a boring bench, right? Kids ride the bus all the time, especially in urban centers. So what would make that more fun for kids to have to wait at the bus stop with their parents? You think about that, I bet they would come up with all kinds of cool ideas. And then you could go back to the school and make some prototypes. Or perhaps you have like a forested area in your neighborhood or by your school. Go take a look, see if you can find some habitat, see if you can find some bird nests. Why do you think birds build their nests differently? Here we have all kinds of different birds' nests, robins, crows, all kinds of things, and they do look different. So getting outside, while you can't necessarily plan for it as well as you could something in the classroom, I feel like it can be a really great way to showcase how STEM exists naturally and also in a way that's made by people so that we can exist comfortably in the world, if that makes sense. All right, next one, which is also pretty obvious, number 3, visit a STEM themed space. So this could be taking them to an event, right? You could Google in your city, perhaps they have a first Lego League event coming up, or some other robotics league, or maybe you could take them to your local science museum, or you could take them to their art museum or anything that they're interested in, and then have those STEM related conversations along the way. There are lots of different places that you could go. So you just need to maybe give it a search. Sometimes there are local like Instagram groups or Facebook groups that will share this kind of stuff around. Homeschool groups, even if your child's not homeschooled, sometimes they'll have great ideas for events happening in your local area that you can check out. All right, I do this one with my kids. Number 4, have a bunch of problems. Now, I have a 2.5, almost 3-year-old, I'll say. So I don't do this as much with him yet, but my daughter is 6.5. And she is a maker sort of by nature. So I'm not necessarily trying to get her interested in STEM, but I am sort of trying to keep that interest, trying to keep it fresh. So a lot of the time I will proclaim my problems to the house because she is great at solving them. So something as simple as like, oh, just this coat hanger is not working for me. My coat is too big. I need some way to hang up my coat. And then I'll just walk away. And sometimes I'll get her on the first problem. Sometimes I might have to sort of come up with 5 or 6 before she finds one that she's like, oh wait, I wanna do this. So one example was we were having a guest come to our house and stay with us. Like, oh, okay, so we've got to get the room ready and we're going to make sure that we've got the towels out, just the usual prepping for a guest sort of stuff. I'm like, yeah, all right, well, I guess we'll get to work. And then she says, it sounds like you're making the basement into a hotel. And because that's where our spare room is. And I said, well, kind of, I guess. She said, I think we need to turn our whole house into a hotel. And that sparked the next 3 days of crafting all kinds of things that would make our house into a hotel. So the critical thinking, the creative thinking was there. The engineering was there. She was using Canva with me to get things printed off. She created her own notebook, check-in notebook. So It doesn't always have to be robots, right? Sometimes it could just be, I have a problem that I need solving. What are we going to do? And if you're looking for one for your classroom, one that's silly and fun and high interest, but totally ridiculous, use a Rube Goldberg machine to solve a problem. So in my grade 6 class, it was, we need to turn off the lights. We're always leaving the lights on when we go. We always forget. So we need a way to turn off the lights. And then we broke the class into, I believe it was 8 groups. And every group was in charge of one chunk of the Rube Goldberg machine, and it had to work together to turn off the lights. And yes, Rube Goldberg machines are famously inefficient, but they are fun. And fun is a key way to spark interest as well. So that could be one for you. All right, moving on. Number 5, play a game. There are lots of different games that one could play. You can make up your own games, but if you're looking for a tech one that lots of kids know about is Minecraft. Minecraft is like digital Lego, and it is so cool. And kids really get into it, and they will build all sorts of things. There are countless applications for Minecraft. It does take a little bit of getting used to, and as far as age appropriateness, I would say like grade 1, you could probably start getting into it. It depends on your kid, honestly. Not for the younger guys so much, but for the older ones, definitely getting into Minecraft can be a lot of fun. Once they get over the hump of how to make it work, what are the shortcuts and things, they can move really, really quickly. I've had kids working on the same village for 3 years, and it's just like a whole metropolis. They've got all kinds of stuff. Like, your kids can teach you so much about STEM if they're interested in it. So Minecraft is definitely one that I recommend. All right, moving on. Number 6, try a new toy. It is that season. We're all going around doing our holiday shopping and things like that. By getting a new toy, I don't necessarily mean like a pre-made STEM marketed kit. Okay. That could be a really engaging entry point, though, if you think that your child or student would benefit from something like that, then that's great. KiwiCo has really, really fun subscription boxes. We've had those in our house before for a little while. Or, you go to your local science center, you go to your local toy store. There are thousands of STEM marketed kits. They are instruction based, so it'll tell you do this, then do this, then do this. But for some kids, that's what they need to get started, and that's totally okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But as far as leaning towards the other side of that spectrum, I would recommend getting something a little bit more open ended, right? Because sometimes those STEM kits can be one and done. So I built it, I'm done. What do I do with it now? Not all of them, but I tend to focus on the ones that are more open-ended. If your kid's really into art, that could be loose craft supplies, right? Some really engaging, different, unique kind of craft supplies. There are lots of low-cost robots that are around. A quick search will come up. I'm going to put some in the show notes, and on the blog on the website if you want to check that out. Some low-cost robots could be really cool. Lego is always awesome. We've got my little guy into Duplo right now just because his hands are small and it's easy for him to build. And I'll tell you what, we were at the Lego store last week and Duplo is cooler now. He got a battery powered fire truck and it's got LEDs and sounds. So now he was in the Duplo before. He kind of wavered, went away, played with other things for a while, and now he's re-engaged in the Lego. So it's so fun. Lego can be expensive though, so I recommend checking out Marketplace, secondhand stores. See if your friends have grown kids that aren't interested in their Lego anymore. Those can be really great places to get it secondhand. I mean, it's a plastic brick, right? So it's not something that can get spoiled or go bad. It can be passed on. So that's what I would recommend because buying it new can be quite expensive. Another tool that is really fun that I tend to talk about a lot is Microbit. So Microbit has been around forever. It is a tiny little microchip board, okay, with LEDs on it. And you plug it into computer, Chromebook, whatever you've got, and you can code it to do all kinds of different things. Now, microbit.org has a project library. So anywhere from beginner to advanced, there are all kinds of things you can make. And then even just using the LEDs and sounds and music, which can be a really simple entry point. Again, it's got little buttons on it, so you can trigger it to when you press one button, it'll do something. That's a great place to start with coding as well. But then, so you can start with like the step-by-step tutorials, and then they can start creating on their own. So it's filled with different kinds of sensors. There's an accelerometer, which we used for egg drops. So instead of dropping a ton of eggs, you code the microbit to sense how hard it's hit the ground. And you can code it to say, did it pass or did it fail? How hard did it hit the ground? Would it break an egg, right? It's got a light sensor. It's got a temperature sensor. It's got a touch sensor, lots of different things. And then you can add all sorts of kits to it as well. So like those low-cost robot kits can be added to a microbit. You can add different kinds of sensors and wheels. And I have a video on my social media and on the website about building a self-watering plant pot, which I 3D printed and then used a microbit to code the pump so that it would be triggered if the soil moisture level was low. So there's lots of different things you can do as you get older. But if your kids are young, then starting with something small, something simple, just music and LEDs can be really fun too. So try a new toy. Number 7, learn a new skill. Baking. Baking is related to STEM in so many ways, right? We can talk about chemical change. We can talk about measurement. There are so many things. So just start baking with your kids. Another thing that we're getting into in our house is sewing. My daughter is so into sewing right now. We're actually using felt and yarn, and I got her those plastic needles, and a hole punch, like a single hole punch, works really well because it punches little holes in the felt. I mean, your hands are going to be so sore after, but we're just building our strength, right? So you can punch little holes all the way around, and then they can practice sewing it together. So she's made all kinds of stuff, pillows and stuffies, and she wants to make a dress. That's her next thing. So we might be getting her on the sewing machine sooner than later. We just need to trust our kids, right? They've got it. They've got it. All right. Now construction tools is one that I get a little bit of flack for. So let me explain. When I say construction tools, I do mean hammers, screwdrivers, changing the batteries with your kids. That's all really great. But, and this is the part where people get after me for, I mean power tools. Okay? And let me explain. I'm not saying that you need to give your kids a saw and then leave. I'm not a monster. Safety is important. But I am also of the opinion that if we just hide the scary things, the scary tools from our kids and never teach them how to use them, we might be doing them a disservice. And that could also be related to my upbringing. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. So I grew up outside of Edmonton on an acreage, and my dad is excellent at building and creating things. He can make anything as far as I'm concerned. Like this has always been a talent that he has had. And I think that he definitely sparked an interest in me as a young kid, seeing him, he had a problem and he just built a solution. Like it was so impressive. And he also was really, really good at getting me to participate in that. So I can remember learning how to wire lights in a truck. I can remember learning how to weld. Okay, now I was a bit older when I learned how to do this, and he was always there with me every step of the way. He was the teacher in that sense. But he never shied away from showing me how to do that stuff, even though I was young. And I think that that is so important. And I really, really value that. So, one of my earliest memories on this acreage is he would be working late. It would be, dark outside, and we had a shop kind of off of our house. And he'd be in there working on who knows what, I'm not even sure. And he would just have all this scrap wood kind of lying around. And I was allowed to grab a piece of wood, and my tool that I was into at the time was this bench sander. So again, it had these spinning wheels of sandpaper, and it was powered, and I would turn it on, and I had to wear safety glasses. And I remember one year he got me like some coveralls, so I didn't get messy, and those were just one of my most prized possessions. I loved it. Anyway, I would grab a hunk of wood, and I would turn on the bench sander, and I would like sculpt, I guess. So I would put like ridges into the wood, and I would try and make little people, like little dolls and stuff. And I don't remember the quality of these and how they worked out, because that part wasn't important to me. What was important to me was being able to use it, not unsupervised, but also independently. Right? So he was there, he was nearby, he wasn't standing over me while I was doing this, and he wasn't trying to do it for me. That's key. He taught me how to use it. He taught me how to be safe, and he was nearby, in the same room, nearby. But he let me have space to explore on my own. And I think that that was just so key. And then once I moved on from the bench sander, I mean, it was saws, it was drills. To this day, if something needs to be fixed in my house, I'll just fix it. There is nothing that you can't learn on YouTube, you guys. And in like I really, really think that we need to spend more time getting kids into these practical sort of skills. Show them the power tools, show them how to use it, set clear, hard expectations on safety and tell them why. And then include them with you. Give them a job. I mean, one of the things that we did the other day that actually brought my kids so much joy, my son has an IKEA bed, and we were putting the slats in, so it's like one of those beds that you can put the mattress just on the ground, or you can put the slats in and kind of prop it up. It was one of those. And so it was time for the slats to go in. And those kids had so much fun. My son had a screwdriver because he's 2. My daughter had the drill. And for the first 4, we did it together because it was kind of heavy and she wasn't sure. And then after that, she said, Mom, I think I can do this on my own. And I said, okay, sounds good. Did I leave the room? No. I stayed in the room with her, but I went to work on my own little section of the bed. I went to go help my son with his screwdriver, and she went to town, and she did such a beautiful job, and she felt so much ownership over that, and she was proud that she could do that independently. And then did we have to let the 2-year-old use the drill? Yeah, of course we did, right? So we stand behind him and we hold it, and he does the drill, and he also feels proud. Another one that's connected to baking, I mean, let your kids use the hand mixer, right? Stay there with them, use it, but teach them, right? We're not saying just drop it and go, but teach them. And that is a really, really cool way to build authentic STEM interest. All right, moving on. The next one, this kind of connects, this is a quick one. It kind of connects to student interest, but visiting the nonfiction section of the children's library, because kids have all kinds of interests, right? If they're not sure what those interests are, go to the library, check out the nonfiction section. Maybe it's sharks, maybe it's cars, maybe there's so many things. So that can be a really good place to start. Number 9, find a STEM club or a group of other kids who are engaging in the kinds of things that you'd like to get maybe your kid interested in. So we're not going to talk about this, but I made the switch from Twitter or X to Blue Sky recently. So I kind of put it out there and said, what are some things that you do to get your students interested in STEM? And shout out to the IT girl, because she gave a really good one. She said, she's got a STEM club that's led by 6th form students. So that tells me high school, I think. So older students, maybe grade 11 and 12 if you're here in North America, but they lead this STEM club for younger students, and they are developing collectible STEM badges, which is so cool. I love that because we used to have a STEM club at my old school. They still have it. I'm just not there anymore. But STEM club was such a fun time for kids to explore whatever they were interested in. It was kind of like free reign. And occasionally we would teach them a little skill to sort of get them going. But those STEM badges, what an awesome idea to get kids engaged in a whole variety of different interests, right? And they still feel that little bit of incentive that sometimes kids need. I thought that was really cool. So thank you, IT girl, for that. And the last one is Maker Faire. So Maker Faire is something really cool that exists in a lot of cities in North America. I'm actually not sure about the UK and other parts of Europe, but Maker Faire happens but once a year, and different companies, different groups around that sort of engage in STEM learning or that like the STEM industry, they come together and they sort of show off what they make. That can be a really cool event to get kids to. It can also be a really cool event for kids to participate in, especially the older ones, if we're talking about junior high and high school students. So you could check that one out. All right, so as a review, 10 ways to spark your child's curiosity about STEM. Number 1, connect to a current interest that they have. Number 2, get them outside, see what happens. Number 3, go visit a STEM space, check out a museum, an event, code ninjas. There's lots of different things they could do. Number 4, have a bunch of problems and maybe they'll want to solve one. Number 5, get them engaged in a game. There are STEM board games, and also Minecraft is a great one. Try a new toy is number 6. Lots of really great ideas I'm going to throw onto the blog later. Number 7, learn a new skill. Teach them and then step away. Number 8, if they're not sure what their interests are, take them to the nonfiction section of the library. Number 9, find a club or a group of other kids that they can engage with. Sometimes that connection can help. And number 10 kind of connects to the events, but check out a Maker Faire. That can be a really cool place to see a diverse sort of set of different projects that are going on in the STEM industry. All right. So with that, I hope you got some little tidbits of information from this episode that you can use. If there are any things that you think are really, really valuable that I didn't mention, please, please, please send me a message, comment on social media, on this podcast, whatever you think. And if you thought that this was helpful and you think that someone else would benefit from it, would you do me a favor and give it a share? That would be awesome. Until next time, have a great day and have fun stemming it up. Bye-bye.